So this is it. This is most likely going to be my last vlog of the year 2025. And usually, especially since it's falling around the holiday, around Christmas, I do usually try to do like a Christmas vlog or a Christmas themed type vlog. This year, I don't really have anything going on as far as anything Christmas related or any real idea. And sometimes, I also try to, kind of like recap, the year. I've done vlogs where we took a look back at the year of stuff that we did and such. And, well, not a whole lot of that for the year either. So, the only real thing that we have going on right now is we do have kind of a significant milestone in the vlog series. And that is, of course, the actual anniversary of the vlogs. Indeed, as of right now, the vlog series is celebrating its 9th anniversary, which means 2026 will technically start my 10th year of vlogging. So, in honor of that, going into year number 10, let's reflect on the vlog series entirely. Welcome to this installment of Mike's Vehicle Vlogs. I do want to thank you all for watching today. I will try to make this not as long as it looks like it's going to be, but there's no guarantee. There's a lot of ground to cover. So, here we are. We are 9 years of vlogging, and we are getting ready to start year number 10 when it comes to the vlog series. I have mentioned it before that the vlog series was kind of a backup plan in a way to get video content to you guys when I was still working on my original YouTube series, Mike's Vehicle Spotlight. Feels funny saying that now because Mike's Vehicle Spotlight feels like it was so long ago at this point in time. And as I've stated before, back then I have tried to bring MVS back in a couple of different ways, and it got to the point where it just really wasn't feasible anymore. So, the vlog series, as mentioned, which was kind of just a backup, something that I could maybe film something on real quick. Doesn't take all that much time to throw together, but I could still kind of deliver content to you guys. That was the backup plan, and it really turned out to be pretty much the the main focus of this channel after all of these years. This vlog here is my 496th vlog, and If I had played my cards right a little earlier, at some other points throughout this year, this could have easily been vlog number 500, which that would have been really cool. But it is crazy to think that I have almost, at this point, 500 vlogs in the bag, up there for everybody to see. And a lot of the vlogs are actually really cool. Some of the vlogs are not as cool as I was hoping they would be, especially looking back at some of the vlogs that I have done. But that's the whole point of, doing the vlogs and such. The vlog series captures, that particular moment in time, you know. So if I vlogged something and thought maybe it was a good idea at the time, well, that's exactly how it was for the time, you know. And if it didn't, you know, fare too well later on when I watch it, then it's like, it don't matter. It seemed like it was good at the time, and that's all that matters. We captured that moment. We captured that idea. You know, when it was, like, thought to be pretty awesome. My very first vlog was filmed on December 12th of 2016, and I published it onto YouTube on December 19th of 2016. So December 19th would technically be the actual anniversary date of the vlog series going live. And the very first vlog, you know, it was just one of those, you know, spur of the moment type things. I just thought, you know, this, while I was still trying to think of topics, you know, to really focus on with the vlog series, my mom's 2004 Chevy Malibu Classic had its, like, one of its first major problems during our ownership, and turns out it, you know, the transmission lines kind of blew apart. So I don't know, I just thought that would be an interesting thing to document, and at the time didn't really document any fixing. I myself had not really dug deep into you know, the world of mechanics like I do now. Like I have, all technically because of this channel and this series, but I still thought at the time that it would make for a very interesting, you know, topic. Starting with the second vlog, there have been so many stories, so many topics, so many things that I've thought about to share with you guys here on video in the vlogs. And a lot of those topics ranged from talking about my past cars, talking about my family's past cars, talking about my opinion here and there about certain vehicle subjects. And I've even shared a lot of, like, my life in general, you know, when it comes to significant updates regarding, you know, things in my life. So this video series has really become more, in a lot of ways, more than just cars. It has just pretty much been me documenting my life over the last almost 10 years at this point. And that is something that I thought is really cool. You know, granted that a majority of everything, of course, is vehicle related, it is still pretty much documenting my life. I really liked talking to you guys about all of my past cars, and it was easy to really talk about those because I have quite a bit to talk about. And we started back with my first car, which was my 94 Pontiac Sunbird LE Coupe, a car that I miss very dearly. Did not have enough time with that car in particular, but it was indeed my first car. I was very grateful that my first car was a Pontiac. My Pontiac infatuation started just a few years before that, when I was around 13 years old, and my aunt had purchased, or leased I should say, a 2000 Grand Am GT Coupe that would eventually, that car in particular would eventually lead to a whole other topic on this series, another whole project, as we would say. But yeah, my first car, I loved it dearly, and just didn't have enough time with it. But I have a lot of fond memories, a lot of stories, and a lot of that stuff was shared in the first past car vlog of the channel. And one other thing that really was special was, sometime down the vlog line, I was actually able to visit a 93 Sunbird coupe that was almost exactly identical to mine, with the exception of the color. I think the wheels were different, and there were a couple of things inside that really were not equipped on my Sunbird. But I made the effort, just not only for my own personal interest to revisit a car that I once had, but I also did it for the vlog. I drove an hour and a half away to where this gentleman was selling this car. He knew full on that I didn't have the intent to purchase it, and he still allowed me to come out there and look at it, all for the vlog. And I'm very, very thankful. I was very thankful to that gentleman for letting me do that. And it was just nice to be able to revisit my first car, again, even though it wasn't my exact first car. My exact first car, I don't even know where it's at. It's probably long gone at this point. But just to have, be with that car. And, when I got into that car, there were a couple of, parts where I cut the camera, because I didn't want to continuously film everything. But, I had the camera off, and I just kind of sat there in it and really took it all in. It was just really nice to revisit that car. And in a way, it almost felt as if that car had never left. Even the smell of the interior, it had the same exact scent that my particular car had. And it just brought back, that feeling of being, 16, 17 again, and just basically enjoying my my teenage freedom, of having my first car and just finding reasons to leave the house, So that was a very special, moment for the vlog series and for me to actually, kind of relive that. And from there, I started to talk about the rest of all of the cars that I'd had, and as mentioned, there is quite a bit of them. We even went as far as to rank, these cars from, the car that I would want the least up to the car that I would want back the most, which turned out to be, my 99 Oldsmobile Alero GL. The one car that I could have back in a heartbeat, it would definitely be that one. And that car is one of the more legendary cars of my family in general. Not only did I drive it first, it actually got passed down to my next brother and then the brother after him. So all three of us boys drove this car and almost racked up, it was almost at 200,000 miles before, it was time to go to the junkyard. So we, in general, kind of racked up like somewhere between 80 and 90,000 miles, I think, on that car over the course of 10 years. And it was definitely a car that, as mentioned, I would definitely take back in a heartbeat. I then had the idea to start actually talking about all of the cars that my family had. This was a little more difficult because, some of these cars I've had, I have like memorabilia of, I have owner's manuals to them. I have maybe some leftover keys, like there's certain cars that I have actual pieces of, something to really physically remember them by. And then you get to some of the cars that I started talking about from when I was like really young, and I don't really have anything on, with the exception of some actual like memories, maybe actual stories and such. But either way, I found a way to kind of bring a majority of all of the cars that my family had to bring those stories to life and to share my opinions or my experiences with them, or how many of those cars that I illegally drove when I was younger, under parental supervision, of course. But it happened, and it's fun talking about those cars and those stories as well. Yet again, at some point during the, timeline of the vlog series, I ended up making a video ranking those particular vehicles, from kind of like the worst to best, and then even had my parents' opinions involved too, where I gave them each a list of these particular cars and had them make their own rankings based on their overall experience with them, since obviously they drove them way more than I did. So it was fun to see what they had to say about these particular cars. Aside from that, one of the earlier topics of the vlog series was the driving habits segment, and it was honestly like something that I didn't really finish the way that I was kind of hoping I would, but I think I got maybe 3 or 4 installments of that particular series in, where I basically was just a passenger in the car, and I tried to make it so I would ask, whoever I was interviewing as they were driving, ask them the same kind of questions about their driving habits. And then my whole goal for that was eventually I wanted to, get a few more people, involved in it, and then I wanted to kind of see what everybody who I interviewed, I wanted to kind of see what kind of habits they had in common, or a lot of the stuff that they didn't have in common. It would have been like, it was kind of more of like an experiment in a way. And I don't know, I never really finished it, I'm pretty sure the last person that I interviewed for that segment, I think, was my friend Dennis, who tragically passed away in 2021. So I'm pretty sure he was the last one that I interviewed, and that was still in the early stages of the vlog series. And then somewhere down the line, I started to kind of get sidetracked with some other topics, and never got to really finish that experiment. But one of the more popular early segments of the vlog series ended up being the backlot cars. And that, I did not really expect that particular segment of the vlog series to be as popular as it was. But people really seem to like, seeing the condition of cars that get traded in, before they're actually like touched by the dealership that they're getting traded into. Or we had cars that were, either coming back or going to the, dealer auctions. And some of those, while they were, mostly cleaned up, there were still reasons why they were going to the auction. And, some of them were apparent when we would, start the cars or just look at them. Some of them, there may have been a few, surprises that we didn't know until we actually, fired it up. And it was kind of a fun thing to do. And that whole segment started when I came across an '03 Pontiac Aztek that looked pretty much 99% identical to my '03 Pontiac Aztek, which I had many, many years prior to vlogging, of course. And basically, it was a car that had come back from the auction that we had sent off at some point, and it came back because it didn't sell. It was in pretty bad shape, but I did want to see if it would run. It had a dead battery. I went and obtained a jump box. We started it up, and it pretty much ran pretty good.
Oh, man. Oh, she runs good.
watching the interest of that particular video was pretty interesting. There were, a lot of people who seemed to be, pretty interested watching this, this thing start up, and just the overall condition. It really sparked something there. So I decided, since I had access to all of these cars and access to all these keys and such, I figured every once in a while it would be worth grabbing a handful of keys of some of the cars that I thought would be, the most interesting to see, and just kind of checking them out. As mentioned, that's how they were traded in. It's some of them were really, really sad cases. Some of them were pretty awesome, and I really do miss doing that. And that's just one of those things that I can't really do, anymore, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. Gotta turn it off. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's oil all over that. Well, the infamous 3800.
Throughout the early stages of the vlog series, there were a few vlogs here and there where we, were doing some light vehicle repairs or some servicing, like oil changes and such. One of the earlier ones that we did was on my 2011 Ford Escape, where I did the transmission fluid. And I did that because on that particular car, it was just a simple drain and fill. And you really can't go wrong with that. But when we did that, I discovered that my front driver's side axle seal off the transmission was leaking. And it turns out that those particular cars had a poorly machined drive shaft, going into that. And eventually, because they weren't machined right, they would kind of cut up the seal. But when I went to go do my transmission fluid change, it looked like it had just started. So that led to another vlog where we went to the airport hangar of a guy that I knew from work, and he was a lot more mechanically, endowed compared to me at the time. He agreed to help me, switch out this drive shaft CV assembly, and that was something that I kind of filmed. I tried to film, while we were there, and that was one of the more, that was like the first, actual, like, hardcore thing that we had to do to a car at the time. But then it turns out, we had to do it a second time because something did not go back together correct. I think the seal, the replacement seal itself wasn't sitting right, and I started to leak transmission fluid again pretty quickly. So we had to do it again. I think part of that was because we didn't have a really good tool to properly seat the seal into the transmission. So we came up with something the next time we did it, and haven't had a problem with it, from that point on. So that was one of the earlier things. The first major thing that I kind of tackled myself in the vlog series was replacing that passenger front fender on said 04 Chevy Malibu Classic, because the clear coat, I think, is what we kind of this is kind of what we kind of agreed upon, I guess. I don't know. It looked like somebody scratched the heck out of the top of this fender. Paint chips were starting to come off. It was starting to look really bad, and my mom just wasn't happy with it. So I think overall it was failing clear coat, is what it was. But I ended up finding the exact same color panel, at a junkyard for like $40 or something. And at the time, I couldn't find any videos on how to really switch out a front fender on a Malibu or a Classic, whichever you want to call it. But I was like, let's just do it. Let's document this. Let's do it. And I did it to the best of my ability. It was quite a challenge, but all in all, I guess it wasn't too bad because we were able to actually replace it, and for the most part, it looked pretty good. Granted, it was the same paint color, obviously not the same batch of paint, so in certain lighting, there was a tiny anomaly as far as, the colors looking like, they're not right or not. But for the most part, it looked a lot better. Lined it up as best as I could, and that was, as mentioned, it was a challenge, but it looks like that video in particular was helping a lot of people because it is definitely one of the most watched vlogs that I have on the series. Aztec fever came back to me after a while, especially after seeing that dilapidated 03 come back from the auction, and it made me really want to start looking for another Pontiac Aztec. Not necessarily to drive, at least at the time I wasn't planning on it. I honestly just wanted to have one before they became really extinct. And sure enough, I spent the later half of 2017, actually visiting Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, and was getting really serious about trying to find, something that was actually really dirt cheap, but something that really wasn't all too, too broken down. I really didn't want something that was gonna require a lot of work. I looked at a few here in the area. I drove a few that were here in the area. Problem was, of course, the prices were either too much, or these people, were really asking for a lot of money for something that, really was not worth it, But lo and behold, there was an '01 Pontiac Aztec GT that caught my interest on Facebook Marketplace. I saw it, months and months ago, sometime in 2017. The owners were asking for $700, and while the outside looked pretty nice, they had only had like 2 pictures of it, one front picture I think, and then one from the side. It looked pretty good, but I kind of passed on it because I'm pretty sure that all the description said was needs head gasket, so I was like, eh. But it actually showed back up on my Facebook Marketplace, and this time it was down to $400, so that was really cheap. I decided then to, kind of take a bite out of their ad, and I messaged the sellers. Made an arrangement like a day later to go look at it, and sure enough, it was, with the exception of it being snow covered, we got it running. It seemed to run pretty fine. It was a little noisy, needed a front exhaust manifold as well, so the exhaust leak kind of made it sound louder, but for the most part it was running good. Did need a head gasket. They did tell me that the power steering line was leaking, and kind of left it at that. So I did pay them the $400. We towed it home using my friend's truck and trailer, and that itself was the start of a huge project for this vlog series. Now keep in mind, I did not want to buy an Aztec that needed all of this repair. Initially, I just thought I can get one of my friends to do, the head gasket job, maybe the lines, but then I thought to myself, I've had numerous cars at that point with the 3.4 liter V6, and every single one of them had the intake and head gaskets done on them, but I'd never done it, and I just thought, this is my opportunity to really, maybe dig my hands into this and do this myself. Once the car was here, I was able to figure out, all these other little things that it needed. So before I actually started doing the head gasket stuff, I started going to the various junkyards and finding little bits and pieces here to start, kind of bringing the car back to life, like hood shocks, rear lift gate shocks. At one point, had to try to find another battery. Car went through several batteries before I got one that actually stayed pretty good for when we were driving it. And then came the day where I started, to actually tear the engine apart, and, while the engine was apart, started to kind of figure out that there were other things wrong with the car. So at that point, we did, transmission lines, power steering lines, brake lines, all while the engine was apart for the most part, so that way we can get in. It was a little bit easier to work with some of those lines while the engine was apart, even though I had to do some of these lines again later on, but that's those are stories in itself. So it became a really, big thing for me, especially since I had never done anything like that before. And it was fun, There were a lot of stressful times, during that rebuild process, but I had fun doing it. It was very interesting to me. I was learning all of these things about, what certain components inside the engine, were, and to exactly see how they function and all this stuff. It was just fascinating. And then, it took months, to get the engine running, and I finally got it back together, and it lived.
No way. Yes! Yes! Yes, it lived! No way!
And of course, once it lived, we found other problems with it. So it was just, that car became one thing after another, but I had fun doing it. And, the day that I finally got to drive that thing for the first time, while it was not flawless, it still had a couple of issues that, again, had not shown up until the car was actually drivable, but it paid off. I was really excited. I was driving something that sat in my driveway for, from the beginning of 2018 to the summer of 2019. It sat that long. I was able to drive it now. It was moving, and I was just so proud. Like, I felt such a sense of accomplishment knowing that I got that thing running again. It was amazing. And then that's kind of what got me into thinking that I could do this as a career. Going back to school, and then trying to work part-time, it was crazy. It was a stressful 15 months. Plus, on top of that, we had COVID. I was going to school. I just started school like a few months before COVID became a thing, and that kind of threw things into a loop. But it was one of those things that we got through it, and it was a stressful 15 months. But there was a lot of useful stuff, obviously, that the school taught. Just a lot of the basics. Everybody thinks that if you go to school, like a trade school or something, basically anything, you're gonna know it all. No, you're not. Especially in the automotive field. There's a lot of things in school that I was learning that I had kind of already learned a little bit about during my time rebuilding the Aztec. So I probably just could have got a job starting off as a lube tech somewhere, entry level, without having to go to school, and then kind of work my way up from there. But it would not have been the same, because I wanted to have the education. This was something that I was very, very passionate about, especially after the Aztec build was done. And I wanted to learn more. I wanted to learn more properly, So that's why I really kind of pushed myself to go back to school, and actually, take this really seriously. And, I think it paid off. getting the actual like degree, the associate's degree, and seeing it, actually in my hand and stuff. It was very, it was a really good feeling. Like it all kind of started just because I worked on this car, this $400 piece of junk that I got back on the road, and it hadn't been on the road for like almost 3 years total. You know, so yeah, I was very proud of that. I was very proud to actually have gone through the schooling, and yet I was, working part time was very, very stressful. Trying to keep obviously everything going here at the house, but it worked. I got through it, and it paid off. I have decided, after thinking about this for weeks and weeks, trying to give it, a lot of thought, talk to my wife about it, I've decided that I want to go back to school and learn more about automotive stuff. So that means by the time that this video comes out, I probably will have already begun my 15-month journey into getting an associate's degree in automotive technology. Alright everyone, so here we are, 15 months later, and I'm done. I finished my schooling program, and yeah, I'm actually still kind of surprised about the whole experience. 15 months actually went by a lot quicker than I was going, to imagine. And, believe it or not, I chose the best time to go into the program, because who would have thought just a few months into my schooling we would have had an entire worldwide pandemic, and that screwed up a lot of things. But as far as the schooling aspect goes, I still got through it, and here I am now, done with a degree in automotive technology. I don't think that is something that I could do again, however. Obviously a lot of things have changed since 19, 20, and 21. But nowadays, I definitely don't think I could pull off going part-time and school. So I'm just glad that I did it when I did, and I should have done it sooner in my life, but, it was, being like somebody that had to, work on cars, being a mechanic or a technician, it was something that crossed my mind at some point, when I was younger. But I guess, I was kind of afraid, in a way, but at the same time, I really wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with my life. But actually, buying the $400 Aztec and just getting all the resources that I could, and getting through that build, having it be successful, doing it hands-on first, and realizing, this really doesn't seem that bad, and I'm having fun doing this. Well, that's what I needed, apparently. The Aztec ended up being sold, at the end of July 2020. I sold it to somebody who needed a ride kind of temporarily. They weren't planning on keeping the Aztec long term. They needed something for like a year at least, maybe a few months or so, because the vehicle that she had was totally undrivable. It was unsafe, and she was trying to save money to actually, put down on a nice, more newer, reliable vehicle. That was her plan. So I sold this girl the Aztec, and she had it for, about 2 months ish, and somebody T-boned her. She let me come by and visit the tech for the vlog series, because I wanted to kind of present that closure to the viewers who stuck with me long time, with the Aztec project. You know, a lot of people did see it go from a heap of junk to, like I said, drivable. Kind of made it the Aztec that I always wanted as a kid. And, you know, it was in really good shape when it left. Unfortunately, somebody T-boned her from the side, and then they took off. So I honestly don't know if they ever caught the person who did it or not, but it didn't matter because the tech was totaled just because of the age and the structural integrity under the car. Some of it had been compromised at this point due to the impact. So it was really, really sad to see what the car had become. But that car will always be like a legacy on this channel, especially of all of the firsts that car actually presented, not just to the channel, but again, to me personally. And I will always miss that tech. Yeah, it broke my heart to hear what had happened and to actually see it. But the nice thing about it was, you know, her and her kids who were in the car, nobody was hurt. The tech did its job at, you know, actually keeping them safe. And other than just being shaken up, everybody walked away just fine. So I'm glad that car, you know, did what it had to do in that aspect. So then I bought a Grand Am. And the 2003 Pontiac Grand Am GT Coupe became the next project for this series. Of course, this one did not need as much work as the Aztec did. Still had to be towed home. This was also another victim of the intake gasket leak. And this car had been driven for far too long in that terrible condition. At first, I didn't think the engine was going to make it. I thought for sure this engine's toast. It was very loud. One of the lifters had collapsed, so I think that was just due to, you know, it being clogged up. It got stuck due to the contamination of the engine oil.
That definitely sounds like upper end noise.
So I was able to fix it. I was able to take all the lifters apart and clean them out and such once we got to that engine rebuild. But for the most part, this thing didn't need a whole lot, and I'm glad, because I wanted to have a project, you know, that I was able to drive right away, pretty much once it, you know, had its main engine situation taken care of. But this one was in really good shape for the most part. It wasn't in the color that I wanted. Again, I probably found like at least 7 Grand Ams on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, some of which I had contacted the owner and requested that I go look at in person. And usually the days that I wanted to go, I would hear back from them or not and find out that they were sold. And, you know, people just don't let you know that. So the day that I sold the Aztec, I made arrangements immediately after. Once the Aztec left my driveway, we drove, again, like about an hour away from here to where this Grand Am was sitting. It was raining, so I couldn't really look at the underside or anything. But for the most part, it looked to be in enough good shape to, you know, interest me. And, you know, I paid $750 for the Grand Am. A few days later, had it towed home, and as mentioned, our whole, you know, project began again. This one started off with a few electrical things, nothing too major. The stereo wiring was all screwed up, so eventually it needed a stereo in general. So, you know, replaced the stereo with a good known eBay rebuild. And yeah, we did that. Needed tires. Eventually we did all 4 brakes. Transmission was pretty healthy pretty much the entire time. At some point, the water leak through the sunroof, came back, and I couldn't really figure out how to keep the drains clear. Every time I thought I had fixed it, I did not. It's just something that came back. But for the most part, I got a lot of good use out of that Grand Am. I got a lot of good content. And overall, though, the main reason why I wanted that car, as I mentioned earlier, was because it filled that child spot in my my heart, my that 13-year-old who wanted the Grand Am GT Coupe after my aunt had gotten her first one, a car that I fell deeply in love with as a kid. And I don't know why, I've said it before, I don't know why I never bought a really good Grand Am, a good example. It just never crossed my mind, but I'm kind of glad that I bought the one that I did. Only had 118,000 miles on it when I bought it, and when we got rid of it, I think we were around 136, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. So it was just nice to have a car once again, kind of bringing back a lot of nostalgic feelings. When I drove it, I had fun, and it made me feel like I was a kid again. It was that nice of a car. I didn't really want to get rid of it, this past year, but at the same time, I have done pretty much all that I wanted to do with it. The underside of it wasn't getting any better, especially where the rear suspension shackles were. Those are very prone to be, they will fail because they rust a whole lot. So the rust and the holes and stuff were getting pretty close to that. So I knew it wasn't going to be roadworthy for a whole lot longer. The power steering line blew out and started leaking pretty bad. And I just, as much as it killed me, I decided that it was not worth putting any more money into. But over, pretty much the 4 years that I had it, she did pretty good. She didn't need a whole lot of attention. So it was a really good car, and it was fun to drive, and I do miss it. It is at the school that I graduated from, the tech school. So I let them have it because I didn't want to see the car get crushed. I figured it can go to the school and they can figure out, the problems with it, the stuff that I didn't want to fix. There's a lot of good stuff on the car. It's a good running car. A lot of good things for students to learn on. So that's where she's at now. But I miss my Grand Am. I miss it a lot. I briefly had a Saab. So I had a Saab, a 2006 Saab 9.3 2.0T. This car was given to me by my stepsister, who was moving to Colorado at the time, back toward the end of 2021, and she couldn't take the car with her for a few reasons. The main reason is because where she was gonna move to, she lives in the mountains, and that car would not have done good in the mountains. So she decided she didn't want to sell it because she wanted it to go to a good home, and she offered it to me at first, months prior, and I told her I was interested in it, and I would pay for it. We'd come up with a price or something. But originally, when she offered it to me, I told her I didn't have the money, and we would have to wait. So there was time for her to get ready to move, but her moving date actually got bumped up. She wasn't supposed to leave until after the new year, so it was November of 21. She all of a sudden pulled the trigger on moving to Colorado, and I was she offered it to me then. I said, I don't have the money, but she said, I'm just going to give it to you because I want you to, not only use it for your videos and stuff, but you'll take care of it. So that's how I ended up with the Saab. It was an awesome car. It was pretty close to 200K on the odometer. And it had its problems. It did have its problems. I had originally got my hands on this car at first when the valve cover gasket needed done. So we did a video on the valve cover gasket earlier that year, actually. And like I said, I really wasn't expecting to have it in my possession, that soon. I always feel bad for the Saab though, because I really didn't get as much use out of it as I would have liked to. To be quite honest, I was always a little nervous to drive that car because it needed a lot of front end work. Like I said, this car was coming up on 200,000 miles, and the shocks up front, one of them was blown out, the other one had a broken spring. There were some other suspension parts that were, kind of loose up front. The wheel itself, the steering wheel, had a very loose spot. You can knock it back and forth. And I don't know if that was, I think that might have been the actual joint on the steering column, the steering shaft. But yeah, I mean, it was, I was kind of nervous to drive it. And getting all the parts for that car, I just didn't have the money for a long time, because you can't just buy quick struts for a Saab 9.3. I learned you would have to actually buy each individual piece and build the struts yourself. Not just that, sometimes lifting the car was getting kind of sketchy. The fuel tank straps were even getting kind of rusty. So, there was just a lot of things that made me nervous driving the car. But when I did drive it, it was a blast to drive. And it was quick. It was definitely the fastest car that I had ever had. First and only car that I've had at this point with a turbo. And it was fun. I absolutely loved the car. And, by the end of 2023, the car kind of sat because the alternator died. And at that point in time, I was kind of, I don't want to say done with the Grand Am, but I was kind of thinking, maybe, I should start setting my sights on getting the Saab, all fixed up. So, at the end of 2023, I threw an alternator in it, and I was like, it runs now. I'm going to drive it more, and we're gonna work on getting the suspension stuff, and we're gonna bring this car back to life. I got so excited, but like 3 days after I put the alternator into it, I got into an accident, and somebody hit me from the rear passenger side, and that was it. Game over. The car was still drivable. If you hit a bump the wrong way, the rear tire would scrape against the sheet metal in the back. So, it was, the insurance company obviously totaled it out, and I was gonna keep it, and I wanted to push it to that 200,000 mile mark. It really wasn't too far away. Had like 1,000 miles left, somewhere around there. But I don't know. I think the state inspection, they gave me like a weird time frame to get everything fixed and inspected, and I didn't have that kind of time or money to do anything with it. So I decided to just surrender it to the insurance company, and I feel so bad for that car. But that was the end of the Saab. Yeah, quite a Saab story. Elder Civic is the current project car, or second car, whatever you want to call it. A 2007 Honda Civic LX. My neighbor sold this car to me when she said that she was thinking about selling it after acquiring the car she has now. I was like, I kind of have to have this because I have a 2017 Honda Civic. This car is exactly 10 years older. It's the same trim package. It's even the same color. I have to have this car. Just because of those reasons alone. And of course, it had things, for us to tinker with. But yeah, so she sold that car to me, and we're going to be coming up on a year with that car here in March. And yeah, it's been a really awesome car. So I'm just really glad that I have that car, and it is, you know, I call it Elder Civic because it's old and it has like 265,000 miles on it now. I figured that name would be suiting. Its actual name, according to my neighbor, is Rhonda. Rhonda the Honda. So I like Elder Civic. But yeah, it's been a great car, and we've had content with it. There's still some things that are coming up that I do want to document with it. So hopefully we will see that stuff coming up here, you know, in this year, this coming year. We have said farewell to a lot of cars on the channel. And I'm not talking about just project cars. I'm talking about daily driver cars, you know, some family cars. Cars that, honestly, I didn't think I'd be getting rid of as soon as I did. But that seems to be the tendency with me. So the first one to go was the 2011 Ford Escape XLT. That was a car that I started documenting even way before the vlog series. Only had it not even a whole 3 years. I think it was like 2 years, a little over 2 years. And I decided to get rid of it. Even though I had liked that car so much, I do miss it. I would like to have another one of those body-styled Escapes. But I just wanted something a little more sporty. So I ended up buying the 2015 Ford Fusion S. And there again, that was a car that I had intended on keeping for a lot longer than I did. I decided to trade that in for the current 2017 Honda Civic LX. And Honda, at this point, is my favorite car that I've ever had. Hands down. It is pretty much as perfect as it can be for me at this time. Going on 4 years in February, so we will have our 4-year review at some point. This was the year, as I mentioned, you know, we had to actually do some more maintenancing with it. She's getting up there in miles. She's at 93,000 miles at this point. So, great car. Absolutely great car. We got rid of my sister's 2003 Dodge Intrepid SXT. That was her first car. And I did document that car in 2015 when she got it. Didn't have the vlog series. It started off as an MVS feature, since the car was actually in very, very nice condition when she acquired it. So she got rid of that car toward the end of 2017, bought a brand new off the showroom floor with only 3 miles on it, 2017 Ford Fiesta SE hatchback. We have actually done quite a few videos on that car as well. We did a fan replacement video, a cooling fan replacement. We did a, in relation to that, a coolant tank, degauss bottle is what Ford calls it. We had to replace that thing. We did an evap purge valve on it as well. And at some point, I'm pretty sure we're going to have a video on the APIM module for her Bluetooth and sync system. So we probably at some point will be going to the junkyard trying to find an APIM module, because I think her module is completely dead. Not 100% sure. We need to actually do some diag on that, but we will at some point in time. And of course, we said farewell to the most legendary car in the family, the 2004 Chevy Malibu Classic. My mom had that car since 2006, bought it at 2 years old, had 38,000 miles on it, and we traded it in at the, I think it was in 2018, we traded it in because she's, you know, my mom's a little older now, and she was having a hard time getting in and out of the car. 12 years of ownership in that car, and she really didn't want to give it up, but you know, it had been such a good car. Had like 105 or 106,000 miles on it, I think, when we traded it in. So we definitely got our use out of it. And it was just, you know, a legendary car that we had to say goodbye to, unfortunately. The 2015 Ford Fiesta SE has been the one staple of this vlog series that is still here. And we bought the Fiesta in the very, very early episodes of the vlogs, and she is still here. So we have owned that car. It will be 9 years this January. And it's been a pretty good car. She is, at this point, starting to show her battle scars. And we'll get to that in our, annual anniversary video. But overall, it's been a fantastic car. Hopefully it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. I don't see any reason for it to go anywhere, but it's been amazing. This past year, we definitely have had some things to do to it, and like I said, she's got some scarring showing at this point, which is making me really sad, but it happens. So just goes to show, with age, it's a 10-year-old car this year, but we've had it going on 9 years. So yeah, but overall it's been good. In that video, we'll have that eventually soon. There's been quite a bit of videos about life updates, stuff going on in my personal life, and again, I don't have to necessarily share some of these aspects, but I choose to, because in some cases, some of these updates could very well have something to do, or it could at some point, do something with the channel, I guess is what I'm saying, it could affect, some aspects of the channel or something. So yeah, I mean, I've mentioned, over the years, stuff about jobs, health, or, anything like that, so those kind of vlogs, just kind of show up here, periodically. And last but not least, there was one thing that we did end up saying goodbye to in the vlog series a few years ago, actually, but we had to say goodbye to the puny little Jack. The puny little Jack was my friend. He got me through so many jobs, even before I started to do all of the heavy duty, mechanic type stuff here at the house. I bought the puny little Jack sometime at the end of 2012, and I used them to do oil changes on, to lift the car up, to do oil changes on, and maybe a couple of things here and there, but the puny little Jack became very, very important once we started to do the Aztec project and a lot of other jobs from there on out. It being as old as it was, he started to get really tired, especially toward the end of the Aztec project. It wasn't really going up as far as it should have, and sometimes it started to lower, onto the jack stands, which that's why I always say never go under a car without a jack stand. But it was a good little Jack, and I obviously upgraded greatly to a 2-ton floor jack when I knew that one was getting really tired. So we had to say farewell to the puny little Jack, and yeah, he did really, really good. So I think that's it, everybody. I'm pretty sure I've covered a lot of the aspects of the vlog series, all of the main and major topics, and yeah, we're going into our 10th year. I don't know what year number 10 is going to bring. I honestly don't even know how often we're gonna vlog, in year number 10. I do feel like I'm getting to the point, where, I'm kind of, wanting to scale it back a little bit, here and there. Really, not vlog unless we have some really, cool topic or some cool maintenance thing to do or something. Like I say, we are going to have our, annual vehicle anniversary reviews coming up throughout, the next few months. The 17 Civic still needs back brake pads and rotors, so I know, we'll document that. My mom's Escape needs a valve cover gasket. I've been putting that off for way too long, so that'll be something to document at some point. My sister's, like I said, the A-pen module, that'll be something. So it's all just going to depend on, what comes up, So I can't guarantee, a vlog every week at this point, but yeah, we'll see where it takes us, as we usually do. Somehow, the vlog series always kind of works out, So that being said, I do want to thank each and every one of you who have stuck around, the vlog series for all this time, and it's like I said, because of you guys that I continue to do this, and just thank you for sticking around and watching. So also, like I said, this is about Christmas. I don't have any Christmas thing related, but since this is going to be the last vlog of the year, I do want to thank you guys, for watching. I hope everybody is going to, have a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful holiday, a safe and happy New Year. Be careful out there, and that's it. So if you enjoyed this reflection, recap, whatever you want to call it, of our vlog series, give us a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. I will see you guys next year in 2026. Thanks for watching. Take care. I must say, a lot of content has definitely evolved in my content has evolved in more ways than ever throughout the lifespan of the channel. So I actually came up with the idea to actually start doing some type of vlog series, honestly, my life isn't all that interesting. From time to time, maybe, but for the most part, I focus more so on the car stuff, more likely on my channel. So I've decided to start a series called Mike's Vehicle Vlogs, and I've kind of thought about it over the last couple of days, and I decided to give it a shot.